Just waiting for everyone to join into the live, and we will start in a couple of minutes. Yeah, I think we can begin now. So, good evening, everyone, esteemed panelists and distinguished guests. Welcome to today's discussion on digital arrest scams, navigating legal challenges in the age of cyber enforcement. In recent times, India has witnessed a surge in sophisticated cybercrimes, notably the digital arrest scam. Fraudsters impersonate law enforcement officials through video calls, presenting fabricated allegations and threatening legal action to extort money from unsuspecting individuals. This alarming trend has led to significant financial losses and raised critical questions about the adequacy of our legal frameworks and enforcement mechanisms. Today, we're joined by a panel of esteemed legal experts who will shed a light on the intricacies of these scams, the challenges that they pose to our legal system, and the measure necessary to protect citizens in this digital age. Let me introduce the panelists. We have Advocate Madhav Shankar. With over 7 years in adversary and dispute resolution, Madhav specializes in commercial law and technology, bringing precision and integrity to complex cases. Advocate Gaurav Ghosh, a highly experienced lawyer, Advocate Gaurav Ghosh practices across multiple jurisdictions and specializes in constitutional and commercial law, providing deep insights into legal reforms and individual rights. Then we have Advocate Sharma, who has decades of stellar legal experience. Advocate Sharma has earned accolades as a strategic legal expert. Under his leadership, JSSB Legal has been named Most Trusted Law Firm of the Year 2025. Then we have Advocate Yusuf Singh, an experienced independent advocate at the Bombay High Court with over 20 years of diverse legal expertise. He specializes in writ petitions, civil suits, arbitration, matrimony matters, and corporate criminal litigation. So, before we begin our discussion, I would request you to just show you a small video about Rest the Case.
In a world where time is precious, getting swift access to legal help shouldn't be a privilege, but a right. Welcome to Rest the Case, India's most trusted online platform for legal solutions. We are transforming the legal tech landscape, bridging gaps, and bringing legal support to anyone, anywhere, at any time. The legal field in India can be overwhelming. Courts are crowded, the search for the right legal help is confusing, and legal fees can be unpredictable. Many litigants face trust issues, uncertain about finding a lawyer who truly understands their needs. Rest the Case solves this by providing verified lawyer profiles, making it easier than ever to find trusted legal support.
We all are aware of that lawyers are not allowed to advertise themselves, right? But again, they do need something else going on from their routine practice, just so that there are people who actually know about them, so that they can reach out to them without any hassle and easily.
That's where Rest the Case steps in. From consultations to document drafting and court representation, our digital platform brings legal expertise to your fingertips.
The legal ecosystem is a triangle: judiciary, litigant, and the lawyer. But we are touching the litigants, both B2C, retail, and B2B corporates, and the lawyers. So our tools will make life simpler for litigants, retail, by helping them reach the right lawyers. We are using GenAI, we are creating an improved matching system. And for B2B, which is for startups and mid-level corporates, we are helping them by doing tasks like document draft creation, also other aspects which relates to their internal process improvement.
Powered by cutting-edge technology, our platform leverages AI to match users with the most suitable lawyers. Based on expertise and location, from its start, Rest the Case has grown rapidly. With a presence across India, our mission is to provide legal accessibility everywhere, from big cities to smaller towns.
Our vision is to make legal support accessible and affordable for everyone in India. Our journey began in the lockdown, where suddenly people did not know what to do or where to find the right legal support. We then realized that this is not just a pandemic issue. This is an issue that people face every day and everywhere. That's how Rest the Case was born. We bridged the gap between a lawyer and a client to give them a reliable place to find the right legal help.
Rest the case, because every case deserves the right support.
Thank you so much for watching the video. We can now begin with our discussion for today. So I would like to throw the first question to all the panelists. I think everyone would like to know, whoever's watching, is how would you define digital arrest in the context of the recent scams that have happened? Anyone who would like to take up this question?
Well, actually, am I audible?
Yes, yes, you're audible, sir.
Yes, good evening, everyone. And I thank Mr. Keys for giving me this opportunity to be on this panel. Uh, Actually, digital arrest is not defined anywhere. It is actually a recent phenomena where people scam innocent common people just by forging their documents, forging fake profiles with fabricated documents, imposing being imposters as public authorities or policemen or cyber security experts or courier guys, and they scam other people for lakhs and crores of money, their hard-earned money, and they basically cash on the inherent fear of the person who is the victim there. They make him believe that they are really from some authority and they have the authority to arrest a person digitally, so to say. That is on camera within their own premises, and that too without any force of law. That is digital arrest. But as such, there is no definition given in any of the statutes as of now.
Would any other panelists like to add anything to this definition? Any explanation?
I'd just like to say that it basically comprises of wrongful restraint as defined under the IPC and now the BNS.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, as we know, then as we've discussed, that there is no mention of digital arrest in the Indian law right now. So, how would we start by defining this? And how do you see this being incorporated in the future? Because since there have been a lot of instances of this, so how do you see this being incorporated in our law in the future?
I may.
Any-
So, as pointed out by my learned colleagues, there is actually no such legal concept as a digital arrest. When we say digital arrest, what we mean is misuse and identity theft by certain scammers, right? And then which leads into, as Mr. Ghosh pointed out, wrongful restraint, right? So rather than talking about how digital arrest can be incorporated into law, a better question would be what are the safeguards against digital arrest that can be incorporated in law, right? So things like, we already have provisions for identity theft, we already have provisions for wrongful restraint under the BNS. What needs to be done is a structured mechanism or a framework or guideline by the government, an active role by the police to educate people that actually there is nothing like digital arrest under law. In fact, there is no authority in India that I know of which can actually put you under digital arrest. When arrest takes place, the police takes you into custody, right? That is what arrest means. That is to help the police or any other authority with the investigation. Digital arrest itself is an oxymoron because technically you are not in the custody of police.
So there have been no instances, or there it's not possible for anyone to be arrested without being in physical custody of the police, correct? Advocate Yusuf, would you like to add anything to this?
Thank you. You see, while I agree with all the panelists on this issue, I would like to add that digital arrest is not confined merely to, you know, uh, ban a person from moving out under a camera surveillance or anything. Digital arrest also encompasses an issue where the person is banned and is restricted from operating several sites and using several means and modes of conducting business. Like he may be prevented from operating his bank account. He may be, compelled and to have access to his social media. So comes within the ambit of digital arrest. Sorry, and in my opinion, this there is a rise in this algorithmic arrest. It doesn't, understand this kind of arrest can also be executed through, AI platforms, and this doesn't understand any political nuance or any human emotion, and therefore I feel that AI, though, is a very wonderful tool, it should be, only to assist the law enforcing authorities and not to make an automated decision. It cannot be an automated decision. Even certain times that you are on a social platform and a particular conduct, defined within the parameters through the training imparted through the AI imposes a ban on you. That also can, amount to a digital arrest, and therefore and then where is the question of how do we deal with the concept of habeas corpus? Should we not have a digital habeas corpus? You see, when a person is physically arrested, there is a right automatically which creates within him to challenge that detention, if any. Where is the mechanism in the law today if there is a digital arrest which gets effectuated? And who controls this virtual identity? All these issues will have to be addressed. And therefore, in today's era, AI has leaped by leaps and bounds, and law, I feel, seems to be a little lagging behind. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. So, adding to your point, I would like to also then ask a question. So, do the panelists then think that social media bans or restricting access to someone's internet, could that also come under a digital arrest? What do you think?
No, I don't think so, because generally, creating a ban or someone's social media account is done when a person is trying to create a social unrest or create or generate a wave of anti-social, feelings. As we see quite often that this Twitter's account of various social media personalities are all of a sudden stopped by the authorities, or other social media platforms, their accounts are all of a sudden put a stop by the authorities. That is because they post certain posts which are of sensitive in nature. So their doctrine of reasonable restrictions comes into play, because they have a fundamental right of speech and expression, but that again has to be covered by the test of reasonable prudence. There has to be reasonable restrictions so that a public unrest is not caused, or it does not lead to any it doesn't lead to any rioting or something. So that is quite different from digital arrest. Digital arrest, a person is curbing the right to movement of a person, as explained by my learned friend Mr. Ghosh. It 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 creates unlawful restraint. So that is quite different from putting a ban on someone's social media profile.
Right. Any panelist would like add something?
Yeah, putting ban on social media profiles or restricting content or directions to digital platforms, they are issued under the new IT guidelines and or by court orders, takedown orders. So that is quite different from digital arrest as we are talking about it now, which is basically unlawful restraint by impersonation, by impersonating public official or investigative agency.
Right. So,
So
Advocate Ghosh, since I have you, can I then ask you what existing laws are then associated, or what remedies do then a person who has been a victim of such a crime, what remedies would they have under the existing laws that we have?
well, first and foremost, we need public awareness about digital arrest, and that's such a thing as the panelists just pointed out that it's an oxymoron. You cannot arrest a person digitally. If, to effectively arrest a person, that person has to be taken in custody. There are several guidelines laid down by the courts and also safeguarded in the BNSS about arresting a person. But remedies against digital arrest, when you have to seek these remedies, it's usually too late. Either you have already faced the harassment of being confined and blackmailed and threatened, and there have been several instances where people have been made to strip on video calls, and the videos have been recorded and they have been blackmailed with those videos later on. And also, there is obviously the main motive of these digital arrests, which is scamming you out of your money. So you are required to make some account transfer or give some OTP details, your bank details, your Aadhaar number, your PAN card number, and then there's a fraud that is played on you. So by the time it comes to that, the victim has recourse under the law, obviously, because it is basically theft. It is punishable under various sections of the IT Act for impersonation and sections of the BNS for theft. And there are avenues. You have to lodge a cybercrime complaint. There is a cybercrime helpline. There's online reporting of cybercrimes, which can be done now. But the effectiveness of these things is yet to be seen. And in most cases, the scammers are far ahead of law enforcement agencies and cannot be caught.
Right, right. Thank you for that. So then, Advocate Madhav, I would like to then understand from you. Do you think that the current legal framework that we have is that sufficient to deal with such scams and crimes, or do you think something else needs to be added, or anything else is needed?
See, in my experience, whenever I've dealt with cases related to cybercrime and scamming in particular, when we talk about scamming, the scammers, or in case of hacking, the hackers are playing on one of the two things, right? Number one is psychological fear. When a layperson who is not aware of the police procedure, who is not aware of the court procedure of the country, when he gets a video call from someone looking like a policeman, and the policeman tells him or her that, hey, listen, you give me so much money, or we'll come to your house and we'll arrest you, right? There is a fear that is created in the mind of that person. So, that is the psychological fear that the scammers are playing on. Now, technically speaking, there cannot be any law that prevents people from undertaking these kind of activities, right? What there can be is number one, awareness, and number two, quick remedy. Where there can be a legal framework is in terms of using deepfake and AI filters to facilitate such acts like digital arrest. For example, I was reading the newspaper the other day, and I read a news where some scammers using certain AI filters pretended to be someone's boss and made them transfer some money to them. Right? So there cannot be any legal framework that will 100% prevent it from happening. But there can be legal accountability or risk classification of the type of AI or the type of technology that can create these kind of deep fakes, which can then be used to carry out these kind of scams. The second limb is obviously awareness. As you know, many of you must be aware that recently, whenever you call someone, you get this message either in English or your local language which tells you, that either if it's a judge or a policeman or someone calls you, you're not supposed to believe that. So that I believe is a measure by the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India that has been taken. So these kind of measures should be taken more often by the government and more often by the law enforcement agencies.
Right. Advocate Yusuf, would you like to add anything to
Sure,
this?
sure, sure. See, first of all, one has to understand the concept of arrest. Arrest is always effectuated with power, by law, by the force of law. Now, we are talking about confining by a person whom you cannot identify, whose identification is verifiable. And then one is trying to argue that he is or she has been digitally arrested. I totally agree that there has to be absolute awareness of the fact of what is arrest and what is not an arrest, and especially what is the concept of a digital arrest. This is a misnomer which is being spread around, and the scammer or the unidentifiable authority is trying to impress upon an individual that he is now under arrest digitally. What is digital arrest? Digital arrest means that because he's under surveillance and now he cannot move out. Under what law? He doesn't know. What law? He is not explained. So he is threatened that if you move out, this will happen. Your account will be seized. You will be barred. You will be banned from the social media. You will be not allowed to do a lot of things. Or your image is going to be tarnished on social platforms. This kind of threats lead him to be confined. There is no arrest. What is the concept of arrest? That will one will have to understand. And therefore, when I said that digital arrest means that you are going to be restrained under a threat that your account is going to be seized, the money from your account is going to be siphoned, and you are threatened to comply with whatever demands that are being doled out by the unidentified authority. There, I say that there is no law which is in place, and therefore I said when such a threat is there, and then someone talked about the reason of being banned is quite legitimate. I'm sorry to disagree, but there is no legitimacy when you know unilaterally somebody, AI, for example, decides to ban me. And in banning, all right, if I am using obscene material or something which is unethical, I need to be banned. I don't disagree with that. But my right, my liberty to challenge whether that action has been undertaken correctly or not cannot be snatched away. And that is why today AI platforms are using. In fact, when my colleague spoke about the deep fake, you see, there are trained AIs can be a creation of human mind and human intellect. And AIs can be trained to behave in such a fashion. And they can be trained that at the slightest drop of the hat, you can be banned. Now, whether that ban is correct or not, legally enforceable or not, I have a right to challenge. And there, my fundamental right is in question. That is what I like. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Advocate. Advocate Sharma, you have not added to this point. Would you like to add to what provisions do we need? What is required?
Yes, yes. Actually, there is a provision of cheating in the BNS, which was earlier in the IPC, which says where a person induces another to part with a property which he would not have done otherwise, amounts to cheating. Now, this inducement can be because of fear of loss of property or reputation as well. So, this scam called digital arrest would also be classified under cheating, no doubt about that. Other than that, there are various sections of IT which grant the government power to intercept, monitor, or decrypt information in cases involving national security or cyber terrorism that can also come into play. And since it is a new kind of an offense, so obviously the law is evolving and more sections and provisions will be incorporated in the BNS in the Nyaya Sanhita as well. And there's also the personal data protection bill, because ultimately there are various cases where the Aadhaar cards of the victim are being used to incriminate against him, because he is told that this is your Aadhaar card, we know who you are, where you live, and we are a law enforcement agency and we have digitally arrested you. So that is where the person thinks that, of course, it might be someone genuine. That is how the fear of arrest is created, instigated inside the person. So again, the personal data protection bill will come into play there. So these are the some of the provision which I offhand I can think of.
That is
Right.
exactly what I said. See, these provisions are likely to be. We are discussing how to strengthen the law and what are the modes, means, and manner in which we can strengthen, and what how to tackle with this provision. My learned friend also could have mentioned section 463 and 471 of the IPC, which deal with forgery and impersonation, including digital documents. 419 and 420 are punishing cheating. Then information technology 66D penalizes online impersonation. Section 43 and 66 cover unauthorized access to computer system. Section 67 prohibits online defamation or harm. Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita may introduce cyber regulation, which is very welcome, and that is what we are discussing. But the fact is, when you are talking about remedies of illegal confinement, whom are these remedies available to? Today, the investigative agencies are in a fix because they are not able to identify the person, and that person happens to be an artificial intelligence entity which cannot be identified. That is what the fear is. And therefore, we are talking about reforms. Digital arrest is not confinement. Digitally, you cannot confine a person. That is what I was trying to make a point. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying in your point. So then now my question is, and a lot of people's fear is that could this form of arrest become a reality where the law enforcement is taking such a step to actually arrest people digitally? Do you think that this would become a reality?
No, I don't think so, because that would be a very troublesome exercise then, and it will be very difficult for the courts to monitor such cases,
Right.
because even in cases of infringement,
Yeah.
even in cases of this injunctions, the courts deter from granting an injunction which are blanket in nature, because they say it is very difficult for the courts to supervise them. So if a person will be an authority and will have the power to digitally arrest any and every accused, it will be very difficult. It will be a plethora of cases coming in. There will be plethora of bail applications to find out which of these digital arrests are genuine and which are today. These cases of digital arrest are all fake. We all know that. But tomorrow, what you are suggesting is that if the government bodies have such a power to digitally arrest a person, then it will be all the more difficult for a layman to know which of these cases are genuine and which are false. And it will be very difficult for the courts to point out the same.
Very true. I'm not suggesting this,
No,
just
no,
a
of course.
question
Of
by the
course, that was
audience.
the question.
No, 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 no. One moment, please allow me to add. See, can a gag order which is passed by the court disallowing, restricting, prohibiting a person from publishing and circulating something on a particular platform, it cannot be considered as a digital arrest? He has been arrested to digitally operate in a particular area of circulating information or whatever. Is that not a digital arrest?
Sir,
When, to
sir,
give you
the
an
right,
example, the government of J&K
yes,
cut
yes,
off the
they had
internet,
stopped the
that
internet.
is, they
Yes,
digitally arrested. So,
yes.
see, the government can be given the power, and government has the, you see, government, can the government not freeze a bank account from being operated
Mr.
digitally. Is that not a digital arrest?
If I can answer your question, Mr. Singh. Mr. Singh, see, we are talking about two different things. First, we are talking about this concept of digital arrest, which is basically a scam. You can be told over a digital platform that
One
you have
moment,
been.
please. At the cost of interruption, at the very inception, we all agreed there is no concept as digital arrest. There is no definition of digital arrest in the law. Therefore, there is
What
no
you are
question of
talking about
digital
right
arrest.
now, curtailing the
And the
digital
only
rights of a person.
one moment. After I complete, you can respond to me.
Sure,
See,
please.
the concept that as I understand, I may be wrong. Please correct me. The concept, as I understand, this is a term which is being circulated, and even the police authorities and the governmental authorities have clarified there is no digital arrest. They are advising through SMS and various other platforms that do not even entertain an unknown number call. So what are we discussing? When you say digital arrest, first and foremost, what are we defining? What is the definition of digital arrest? The only definition as I can construe is that when an authority, legitimate, under the law, permissible, can disallow, restricting your right to conduct an activity which you have the freedom to, such as operating your platform, social media platform, digitally, operating your bank account digitally, operating several internet, this, that. That is when you are restricted from conducting such activities which are only in the available only in the virtual world, then the concept of digital arrest comes. Here, an unknown illegal authority through AI or real is trying to confine you, which is not allowed to. How can there be an arrest? There is no arrest. You cannot have that concept. You cannot use this term that he is digitally arrested. It is only to understand the concept that it is referred that there is a digital arrest, but there is no recognition of any such term under the law, at least under the considering India's jurisdiction. Thank you.
Yes, sir. We are all enlightened by your
I'm sorry,
extreme
I was only
experience.
sharing.
Thank
I
you very much
started
for
by saying I
sharing
may be
your.
wrong. If I'm corrected, I'll be learning something new. Thank you.
No, no, no.
We are in a constructive debate. Thank you.
It's very welcome.
Mr.
Advocate,
Sharma, would you like to clarify?
To convey the legalities of the issue here. We are not for or against the problem. We are all just trying to contribute to so that people become more aware about the problem. That is all. Thank you very much for your view.
I believe Advocate Ghosh was adding something.
Yeah, I think the conflation that is happening is between curtailment of legal rights in the digital arena of an individual, which can be done lawfully through court orders or even by the executive or the appointed authorities under the IT Act, under the IT guidelines, even under the new data protection bill. They can curtail your certain freedoms which you have over digital domains. That is one thing. And the other thing that is happening, which is being done by scamsters, is that a person is being told that you have been put under arrest digitally, even though that person has not been physically taken into custody. Now, what happens when a person is physically taken into custody? What happens in case of an actual arrest? All these rights are automatically curtailed. You do not have a right to use a telephone when you're arrested. You do not have a right to operate your bank account or send an email when you're arrested. These rights are frozen in place when you are in custody. So that is something very different from the scams that are being pulled off, saying that you have been arrested through this mobile device on this video call. You cannot exit this call. You cannot communicate with anyone else. That is a different thing that is happening.
Right. So you're saying those are two different.
I am saying they're different things, but yes, I do not vehemently disagree with Mr. Singh's terminology. It can be applied to, say, restricting a person's digital rights, but that is not exactly what we are talking about now.
Yes, I appreciate your disagreement, but I must again, as a cost of clarifying, state that there are now two worlds. One is the physical and one is the virtual. And we are talking about, when we talk about arrests, when we talk about curbing our rights under the digital in the virtual world, then there may probably arise a concept of digital arrest. I started by saying that there is a rise in algorithmic arrests. What is that? And when we talk about arrest means what? Curbing somebody's right, maybe fundamental, maybe ancillary. When a right, when my liberty to exercise a right is imposed, that is an arrest. And when my right to freely communicate, circulate, propagate in the virtual world is curbed by the sanction of law, then probably it may be an arrest. But see, under section 41 of the IPC, even a private individual has a right to arrest. This is only in our country, or maybe some other, but basically it's quite alien. But it is prevalent in our country that even a private individual has a right to arrest. Arrest means what? He can arrest only to the extent to carry that person whom he has arrested to the nearest police station. But then the moment a person stands arrested, his rights stand suspended. And when my right stands suspended by virtue of an AI algorithm, I am arrested from doing something, and that is a digital arrest. That's what I was trying to convey. Then one must understand that there are two worlds today which are prevalent: the virtual and the real. When you talk of confining a person and then curbing his right, that is happening in the real world by force, by coercion, maybe under the law, and therefore even his fundamental rights stand suspended. But when you do that in the virtual world, that there is no force except that virtually you are blocked, and that is an arrest. That's what I was trying to convey. Thank you.
If I may add my 2 cents, okay, I agree there is no definition of digital arrest, but we have a very clear definition of arrest, right? And arrest merely does not mean restriction of my movement, and definitely arrest does not mean restriction of my fundamental right, because even when I'm arrested, I still have my fundamental rights.
No,
So,
one moment.
the definition
No,
of
one moment.
arrest
Your
is-
fundamental right to travel stands curbed. Your fundamental right to liberty stands suspended. Sorry. You cannot say that.
So-
How do you say, when I'm arrested and confined, how can you say my fundamental right still remains?
The purpose of
Please.
arrest is confinement of
When
a
I am
person
arrested, I am not.
to
If
help
I'm sitting in a
the
police
investigation
station,
process or the
I'm not.
trial process, not for no
Sorry,
reason, right? It's for investigation or trial. That is when arrest happens. Otherwise, it's simply
See,
detention.
no. What the cost of
So,
detention, sir?
one more
Sir,
thing.
one moment. Please allow me.
Yeah.
You are saying that if I am arrested and confined in the police station only for investigation, even for those 2 hours, I am not allowed to move out. That is arrest. I am not allowed to meet anybody. That is arrest. My fundamental
Yes.
right to liberty is now under suspension.
But you still have your other fundamental rights. You have a right to fair
Maybe
trial.
even
You have a
if
right to freedom of
even
speech.
half of my fundamental right is suspended, my right is suspended, and I am restricted.
Now, the thing is, when we talk about digital arrest, right? Arrest means for the purpose of investigation or trial. Now, your understanding of digital arrest is not correct because a gag order has no remedy in the form of bail. Bail is the foremost remedy for arrest. Now, if you get a gag order, you can go and file a writ petition, but you cannot file a bail. So, your understanding of digital arrest is not correct. The common understanding of digital arrest in common parlance is when a scammer pretends to be someone else and digitally arrests you, or a fake arrest. A gag order or an order by the High Court or the magistrate or even a Section 144 order is not arrest. It is merely detention or restriction of your rights. Right? Because otherwise a bail application would lie against that gag order. So the correct meaning of digital arrest is when someone is pretending to be a police officer or a judge and is telling you that you are under arrest and trying to extract some money from you.
You're right. That's exactly what I was trying to impose. There cannot be a digital arrest because digital arrest can be termed and used as a term only when formally construed and constructed as a legal provision. When you say that an unknown person, a scammer, is digitally arresting, it is not possible because he doesn't have any right to arrest. The moment, and secondly, when you are saying that there is a bill, so I said in the physical world, yes, but in the virtual world, I have a right. Even it may be a writ petition by way of which I may challenge that gag order or the order of an authority which restricts me from doing something. But then that remedy is available. And I went to the extent of even legitimately platforms like Metaverse and the web. If they ban me, where is my right to appeal? It is unilateral. It is arbitrary. Whereas a gag order passed is after hearing the parties, after application of mine. Now here, the Magna Carta which gave us the principle of natural justice is being completely washed away. Then where is the question? In what state are we living? If you are saying that even an arrest does not take away my fundamental right, any top Dick and Harry, any police officer can any under provision come and say you are arrested. I'm not suspending you. The fact that the provision of bail has been granted is because my fundamental right is under challenge and is suspended. But coming back to the point, arrest, you have agreed. We have all agreed, I believe. If you have a disagreement, please come back. Everybody agrees that arrest means restriction of some activity which I am legitimately under the law allowed. Now, for example, on Facebook, for any activity, X, Y, Z, it is an algorithm which is conducting the surveillance, and then based on certain XYZ activities, it decides that no, you are to be banned from Facebook. I don't have any right to appeal against that. I don't have any remedy to do that. There I'm saying that law needs to step in.
But sir, you do have a
I'm
right
not
to appeal
saying
to Facebook. There are terms and conditions in every app. In Instagram, Facebook, there are terms and
terms and
conditions.
conditions do
And
not allow me to appeal and reverse the order of banning me
but sir,
from
it's a
Facebook,
private
which is,
organization.
you see, even if, see, if those terms
How
and
can you
conditions
approach the
have
High
to be,
Court against a private
no,
organization for
one
violation of its
moment,
terms and
please,
conditions?
one moment, please. We can agree to disagree, no problem. But see, terms and conditions means what? You take it or leave it. Is this a democracy? Can the government then will start doing? We
It's
are going
not
to
about
offer you
it.
X,
It's a
Y, Z. You
contract
take
which
it
is
or leave
signed
it.
with the social
Yeah,
media. If
that
you
doesn't.
violate the contract, they can ban you. There is nothing wrong
No,
with that.
no. Even in a contract, it is it cannot be unilateral. Even on in the virtual world, when the terms and conditions are being given, you are given a choice to agree or disagree. If I disagree, I'm out. I don't go in. But even those terms have to be legitimate and within the purview and parameters of the law. And law, first and foremost principle, is principle of natural justice. You cannot take any action which is determinative to my right behind my back or without giving me an opportunity to be heard. So this AI, there are AIs which are trained in a manner to behave in a fashion where they can be arbitrary. I am on that. There we have to urge upon and call upon the government and the authority to frame proper effective laws. That's what I'm saying. Thank you.
If I may, then, since Advocate Yusuf has brought out this point, this is what I would like to close on. Is what do you think are the proper arbitraries, or what are the proper laws that need to be put in place so that such scams are not happening? Because, as you know, we cannot ignore the fact that we are in a digital world. These scams are just going to increase; they're not going to reduce. So, what according to you needs to be added, or what needs to be changed? What do you think needs to be done? Maybe Advocate Saurabh can go ahead first.
Other than the laws, awareness is far more important. Because it is only through awareness that people can learn that arrest is a misnomer. It doesn't exist. Need to know that try to, so as to say, arrest them over a phone call or an online call or on a Zoom call, and people will never ask them to not communicate with other people while they are being, so to say, digitally arrested, because in various cases it has happened that the person is asked to switch off their phone to close the doors, not to allow anybody to come inside their room, to isolate, basically to isolate the person. So awareness is far more important. The government bodies and various, I would even go to the extent of saying that NGOs and social organizations would also need to put a.
I
Advocate.
would like to add to what Mr. Sharma said. Awareness is certainly of paramount importance, but the problem we have here is that people are not aware of basic legal rights. People are not aware of rights that they would have in case of an actual arrest, let alone what rights there are if somebody is digitally arrested or that it is a scam. Such as on 21st January, the Supreme Court passed an order in Satyendra Kumar Antil saying that the police do not have the freedom or liberty to serve notices for appearance or summons through WhatsApp and email. These now previously the Delhi High Court and other high courts had allowed through their judgments that private individuals in private disputes can serve notices or effect service through WhatsApp and email. And the police had caught on to that and they were sending notices to accused for investigative purposes through WhatsApp and email. Now that has just been read down by the Supreme Court. Now when people forget about people, the police probably themselves are not aware that they cannot do such a thing. The Supreme Court has directed that at a state level, at a SP level, DIG level, guidelines be issued, directions be issued, uh, stating that this cannot be done and the physical safeguards have to be maintained by authorities in case of investigation or arrest. So, coming back to awareness, even this order passed by the Supreme Court has not been properly circulated, even though it has been directed that police pass directives to their officials and to police stations. But I'm sure that the public is not effectively aware of these things. So apart from awareness, I think the other laws are, we already have laws against impersonation. We already have laws against restrictions, restricting people's freedoms without due process of law. But despite these laws being in place, because of people not being aware, scamsters can take advantage of the situation.
Advocate Madhav, would you like to add?
I would like to touch upon the proposed Digital India Act, which is modeled largely after the European Union's AI Act. I'm talking about specifically about the provisions related to the risk classification of artificial intelligence. Now, when we look at the proposed Digital India Act, there are various layers of risk that have been created in order to regulate AI. The topmost tier in that is high risk AI. For example, things like autonomous cars, autonomous vehicles, right? So the way that the government proposes to regulate AI and the way that the government proposes to regulate these kind of technologies that can then facilitate harms to the public, including digital arrest, whatever it may mean, is through a risk based paradigm and by classifying different types of AI technologies in different risk categories. So, for example, deepfake technology, if any company develops that deepfake technology and seeks to commercially exploit it, it will have to register it with the government and will have to seek a certain risk assessment, and based on that risk assessment, a certain level of regulation will apply to it. On the other hand, you have something like ChatGPT, which is ostensibly of a much lower risk, right? So when we talk about AI and emerging technologies that don't pose such a huge risk, right? Then the level of regulation that will apply to that kind of technology will be much more relaxed. Now we are yet to see how this particular risk classification is going to play out. Because we haven't seen much done on it, in any part of the world yet. But there are proposed regulations. If anyone is interested, if any of my learned colleagues are interested, any of the members of the audience watching are interested, they can go read the commentary and the recitals of the European Union AI Act, right? And they can also look at the different research that has been conducted in the Digital India Act, right? And that can sort of lay the groundwork for a regulation that can then help us or help the authorities regulate this whole AI regime, and it can also address algorithmic injustice, right? So that's my 2 cents on it.
Thank you so much. Lastly, Advocate Yusuf, if you would like to add anything.
While all these points are very quite elaborate and very steps in the very right direction and appreciated. See, I would like to focus and look through the eyes of an individual, an ordinary individual who wants to prevent himself from becoming a victim to this digital arrest kind of whatever norm it is. So how would I do? What would I do? What kind? See, we are all saying awareness, awareness. What kind of awareness? That is the question I would ask myself. And there, my answer, simple. I have yet to formulate a very holistic. But I would feel that first and foremost, one must have absolute control over one's own data. That is the first thing. And how do I do that? How do I prevent my data, my privacy from being breached? That first is in my communication, it should be encrypted. I may use more and more of VPN so that that access to my data, access to my the virtual identity is prevented. Secondly, I can always enable multi-factor authentication whenever someone is I'm accessing something or someone is, so that others are prevented from so easily accessing those things. And as a cost of repetition, then even instead of relying on platforms like Google or Facebook, I'll use self-sovereign kind of identity solutions that control my own space, but that is yet to come into force and become prevalent so largely. So these are two, three things that I would like people to be aware, like government agencies, authorities, to move in such a direction to enhance and ensure that an individual is prevented. And then I'll look at for solutions and cures that we have already discussed as regards how to prevent and take care of digital arrest. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I think with this, we come to the end of today's discussion. I had a few more questions, but we sadly have run out of time. The discussion that we had was quite insightful. So, as we conclude today's discussion, it is evident that the rise of digital arrest um, scams presents a formidable challenge to our legal enforcement systems. The need for robust legal frameworks, enhanced public awareness, and international cooperation is paramount to combat these crimes. We extend our heartfelt gratitude to our panelists and the individual insights to all the attendees for the engagement. Let us remain vigilant and proactive in safeguarding our digital spaces. Once again, thank you so much to all the panelists here and for their insights and for your valuable time. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.